My hands always look grubby now, like I'm homeless, so it adds to the look. I half don most of the time because I'm using my hands to get the coal and chuck it on the fire. And I've got a mental health disorder that makes it hard to wash as frequently as I'd otherwise want, but it's not just grime from the floor. Yeah, no, it was a terrible day yesterday, very bad day, and essentially I fought through it. Last night I got into a place where I found some sort of centre within myself, and I've been doing my best to keep things in check since, but as I got out of bed today, I saw things possibly going in the same direction. I've just been trying to take proactive measures to making sure they don't, and this is the next step in that course of action. So I'm not going to be talking about anything depressing. I'm not going to be talking about anything down. I'm going to be talking about, like the title says, an idea I've had come my way to share the spiritual information that I don't really want to say I've been blessed with, because it's been it's not been pleasant the way it's arrived in my life, but either way it is beautiful, and it's possibly true, and for that reason it has a lot of worth. And essentially what it is, I've been struggling to rack my brains to figure out, how do I go about sharing that story with the world, because I'd love it one day if people knew the story and they could help contribute to making it complete. In other words, filling the voids of our complete spiritual past in all of its glory, beauty, and pain. And it's just to note and acknowledge that the live streams is helping already, and I didn't imagine it to be able to do so, but I can feel it. So it's thank you to any viewers that are watching. You've been a part of me moving in the right direction. Let's see if I can end the live stream first. But what I was hoping, because I've thought of the idea, so I've racked my brains of how to share the story, and I had a moment of enlightenment in the post office, as you do, with those queues, as long as they are. You could read a whole effing encyclopedia or become enlightened in the process. No, I'm just trying to joke, and it doesn't feel right, but either way, it was a long queue. And in that moment, I got downloads about Michael Jackson, but this is the one, the Matrix is the one that is going to be discussed now together. So where I had the initial idea, I've not had the time to figure out Okay, well, it makes sense, you know. The Matrix is very representative of reality on a spiritual level, just at a distance, without thinking about it too much. And what this video is going to be is about putting elements in place now of how that reimagining would look like in terms of spirituality, and telling the story of 2021 Earth, the spiritual world that's hidden. It's like a conspiracy, like the Matrix is hidden. If you're in the Matrix, you don't know you're in the Matrix. And it's a bit like that with spirituality. If you're in this world, it's like you're in the world, but have you awoken to spirituality? So that's the sort of idea that I'm trying to play with. I'm just gonna grind some lavender that I managed to finally pull out of the storage. What would you call it? A storage cupboard? It's an underfloor storage. So pull out of storage, and where I've been smoking a lot of tobacco of late for medicinal purposes. I missed the lavender. Lavender is what I initially started smoking with hemp, CBD hemp, and I missed the lavender. It got a bit. I just knew it was the right time to stop, and I began smoking tobacco, but I've been missing the lavender. So lavender it's like a bluey light purple, so I think it's more the third eye, which is what I can do with right now. And also the tongue, it makes the tongue come alive. You don't realise it. It's got almost like a citrus taste when you smoke it. And with my CBD hemp mix, I've called it Andreas' Sexy CBD lemon cake, I think it was. That's the nickname I've given it. And it's the lavender that gives it that lemon scent. I think the hemp I use as well adds to that, but it's mostly the lavender. So let's get back to the Matrix. So the Matrix starts, and essentially it's following Neo. Neo could be anybody. Neo is essentially this person that's living life, and he has his job, and he experiences all the emotions that go along with living life in modern times. In his enclosed life, he's alone, but he has social contacts and outward communications, but it's like you can see there's something missing in him. Now, what the Matrix I'm gonna get my metronome going in the background as well, because that would help a little bit. Oh, the battery's come out, so I might not be able to. But yeah, he's alone, and he knows there's something wrong with life. On a spiritual level, we've got a void from the works of Carlos Castaneda. He talks about how Don Juan patches Carlos's energetic hole within him temporarily until, well, I can't remember what the conclusion of that was, how Carlos managed to resolve that problem himself. But that initial scene, that, well, not scene, but those initial scenes where we see Neo, what was his name? James Anderson. Yeah. He follows James Anderson. That's just I didn't think I'd be able to remember, so I'm happy that I managed to remember. And James Anderson is it's a very standard name. It could be representative of anybody. And again, that emptiness, that hole, is a human trait that we have on a spiritual level. And he longs, he knows that there's something. I mean, it shows him like entering into what would be described as psychosis if a therapist looked at it. When he sees the white rabbit and he gets the message on the screen, and it's like your mind has to be open in that direction to see something on the screen and then see the tattoo, and not to just pass it off as chance or coincidence. I appreciate the message popped up on his screen like he's just been hacked. But again, you know, you've just been hacked and you're a computer programmer. You've got to be insane not to figure out who the fuck's hacking me and to leave it and go with the flow. So he's got to really be lost to life. That's how the story starts. And I can't remember how it goes. Then we've got the agents that take him, and then we've got Trinity and Morpheus who pull him out and get that thing out of his stomach, that tracking thing. But he has, as the story is going along, he has psychotic experiences. When he's talking to the police, his mouth seizes up. And don't forget, he's just a normal person. How does he explain that? And as soon as he has that experience, he's taken away and Trinity saves him. So all of these ideas can really be reflective of what I'll do. I don't know other people's spiritual lives, so I can talk about the studies I've done and, you know, the bits I know about autobiography of a yogi, Yoginanda, and all the other spiritual bits of information I have. But what I'll do, I'll talk about it from a personal perspective, and I'll share some things I've not shared with anybody before on this live stream as a result. I gave up a few years ago with this. It's not my beard. It's just when you've got a mental health disorder, people look at you anyway like that. And if your mental health disorder is that much of a challenge and you are a bit, well, look at me. I go for that appearance. I've been aiming for that appearance since I was about 20. And I look like a dishevelled human being, so if I get a bit of apple tea on my beard, I'm not really bothered if it makes my life that little bit easier. But anyway, so I remember like bits of experiences happening to me like from the age of about 17, in terms of that I really didn't have an explanation for, to everything I know of this world. The one that really sticks out to me was a time when I was going through a sticky patch. It wasn't too difficult, but I was smoking marijuana at the time, and I went on a family holiday to Cyprus to see my grandparents and family in Cyprus. And I remember on the plane, on the way there, I must have been asleep. I fell asleep. And all of a sudden, I don't know what it was. Well, all of a sudden I saw this fountain. It was like a fountain of energy, like, you know, one of these jets that sprays up and it comes out like a flower in all directions. And I got woken up and I got back in my seat. And in that instant, I heard the gentleman in front of me opening a can of Coke or a can of fizzy drink. And I clocked that whatever I saw internally was this gentleman opening a fizzy drink. And the pressure of that can opening was this image in my mind of this energetic fountain. But there was no way for me to really understand what that was about. And on a personal level, I'd always been interested in psychics. My family were always that way. I remember it's a Greek tradition that the old women, the old ladies, they read coffee cups and tell fortunes. And I always looked at my grandmother and I thought, yeah, you're reading a coffee cup, but you don't really know what you're doing. I mean, you're not charging money for it. You can't really know what you're doing. You might get some bits right, some bits wrong. But my auntie was always very psychic. She always used to have I don't know if they were prophetic, but my family was always that way. It was like they'd notice when the clocks all of a sudden changed, and as I said, my auntie had dreams, and my mum taught me meditation as a child. Little bits, not great deal, but it was there in me. And we used to have a dream dictionary at home. So when I would have a dream, I'd go to the dictionary and try to translate it into information I could use for my life to make it better. If I knew the future, I could know what to do. So all of that really opened up that void in me to say, look, there's more to life. And from a personal perspective, that was the whole. In truth, that whole is an energetic imperfection in our spiritual evolution. And this is why I'm overlaying the spiritual information I understand. It could be incorrect, and some of the information I will share will be incorrect, but I'll go into that in a minute later, why that's okay. But what I believe, just reflecting on it, as I said, I have not thought about this before, but in Carlos Castaneda's work, he says Don Juan patched Carlos's hole with Don Juan's energy. And essentially for me, that void within me was filled with the hunger for more to life, for spiritual it was first introduced to me on a conditional basis. Like, if I could be psychic, I could know the future. It's like, I do believe in psychics. If I can tap that, I've got an advantage over other humans. But ultimately, that hunger grew, and that's what the initial spark was. It was the psychic. That's all I really understood of the spiritual world. But that was my entrance. So that was the hole in me, and that's depictive of the hole in James Anderson and in everybody, man. In The Matrix, the film, and in everybody in this world, there's always a hole. That's my understanding on a spiritual level. So, I guess, there's 2-3 options. But how do we go from, life experiences that happen to you, from somebody taking you away and offering you the opportunity to go into the Matrix, leave the Matrix and go into the real world? So we can imagine like a generalized human being now. We have that idea that James Anderson is a human being in this world, and he's suffering the imperfections of spirituality as a result of our past. The flower of life, the tree of life that was instigated 15,000 or 15 million years ago and fell in 1890 according to a Red Indian chief looking horse. That's when it fell, that's when it collapsed. So it's been a massive, long, drawn-out process, and it's for a reason. There was a problem that I don't understand back 15,000 or 15 million years ago, whenever it was, that required this to happen. And a gentleman on a mental health ward came and said to me, you know, weird shit happens to me. The flower of life was always designed to fall. So it's like it adds to the problem that whatever it was that it was trying to heal in the first place, that it's an imperfect spiritual world we live in as a result of something that we're trying to resolve. And in terms of what we've just discussed about that energetic hole being left within us, it's likely linked to that. So how do we go from a generalized human living in this world, working whatever job he works, and it would be to enter into spirituality with that psychotic state of mind almost, where you're like so disillusioned with this world that you enter into your own mind and play games and you're willing to give of your time to enter into weird stuff like psychic abilities. So that's easy to imagine of an average person. So what we could see is that an average person might go and see a psychic, and that psychic might give him that information, and that is that initial point of following the rabbit. He's gone to a psychic, and the psychic has given him a story, something to follow. And we can see him making decisions, like when he's in the building and he gets delivered the phone and he answers it and he has to avoid people looking for him. He knows something's going on. And it's the same with the psychic person, the interaction with the psychic. We could see somebody going to a psychic and we could see that trepidation in the person. Do I trust this information? Do I not? And we could dramatise it a little bit, you know. We could put like the information that the person's told is of a serious nature. It doesn't have to be somebody following him, but he realises there's some element of truth. There's something going on here. And then whatever opposition that person has in this world, whatever really cuts him up, them up, her up, and they see that, because that's all the agents were in representation to him. And in terms of his life, we could see that whatever problem he had, well, I need to take a minute here actually. Because in my mind, the one thing that I sort of clocked was, whoa, that's it, it's clicked. So it's ignorance. Ultimately, That void in us is ignorance to understanding everything about life. And we're ignorant on so many levels, and there's nothing wrong with it. Ignorance is just a lack of information, a lack of understanding. And as long as we keep it in check in the right way, in other words, keep it on the level of a childlike questioning to life, and not take it in on board and be fearful of that which we don't know, it's okay. But ultimately, that's where James Anderson went wrong. He had a fear of the agents, and we can see that, we can show that in a person. So whatever the agents end up representing, what we show is that fear in him. We could create a challenging scenario. I have an idea of who the agents are, and there's a twist to how the tone of the ending of the movie, but it will keep the same narrative when he's on the phone and he's given the agents an option. But that's really what that's depicted of. And he goes to fear, he goes to ignorance, he goes to survival about this person that he doesn't know, this group, this race, this sect of humanity. Because ultimately they're just human beings, aren't they? That's in suits, and they talk in a very strange way to what he knows. And the suit is representative of something that you can see that is just beyond him, really. I mean, he's a hacker, he's following fucking rabbit tattoos and... So obviously there's that juxtaposition, and you've got so many polarities in society between the rich and the poor, man and woman, this race and that race, this sexual gender and this sexual orientation, sorry. So we see that ignorance, and when he enters into that fear state, when that our lead character enters into the fear state, that's when we're knocked off our centre. So we can give little spiritual messages all the way through. And ultimately he's knocked off his centre. And in that moment it just makes sense to instigate a little bit more of a psychotic experience, because ultimately that's what my personal experience of psychosis is. When I'm in check and I'm not afraid and I can live my life, and I'm real with the control I have and the survival I have in my life. Sorry, I'm just trying to position my body. I'm trying to deal with physical pain at the same time. But when he's knocked off his centre, we can show that's when mental health troubles us. And in that place, I want to keep it real. I want to keep it real, grounded. Well, no, I don't. I want to. It just that's the feeling I had without really thinking about it. To keep it real, to keep it grounded. A bit like the Macbeth reimagining of Macbeth, where it's set on a council estate. You can't imagine Macbeth with the swords and everything else, and back in the day, set on an English council estate. So it's a real juxtaposition, and when he enters into, when they enter into a psychotic state and they're off their centre, we can almost show, like, how would we do it? What would we do? let me try and open my mind to the hive mind, and send your inputs through. I guess I can. We're all tuned into the hive mind anyway, so there's nothing for you to actually do. But they're knocked off their center. That's when they have that experience and they go into fear. And we can show them having some sort of little spiritual experience, like when James Anderson's mouth gets sealed up. That's allowed. I'm sure we all have had little spiritual experiences that we're in denial of to a greater or lesser extent. Like I couldn't really admit what I just saw. I didn't know how to compartmentalize it. My life has had to open up to the entire universe. I mean, to look back and think, right, actually, I couldn't deal with it at the time.